Hey, this is Gordie Tentrees, and you're listening to the Northern Report.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Welcome to the Northern Report. I'm your host, Sean Burns, and I'm coming right at you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We've had a little bit of a break here with the podcast, with our last episode being released 2 months ago at the end of July. Needless to say, I'm excited to be back behind the mic for Season 2 of our show. Much like in Season 1, these next 20 episodes will be designed to shine a light on emerging and existing Canadian talent, as well as some of the legends we're still lucky to have with us. I'm happy to welcome Gordie Tentrees as our guest today. Gordie has a new record out called Mean Old World, and I was excited to talk to him about that, along with his wealth of experience on the road and on stages around the world. The primary reason for the long break and reset from the podcast was a busy couple of months for me to close out the summer, culminating in a nice little 2-week duo tour on the Canadian prairies with my pal Grant Siemens. Surely, it was a bit strange and bittersweet to be out there, but it felt great to be back on the road, putting on the miles, checking in and out of hotels, loading in and out of some of our favorite venues in Saskatchewan and Alberta. I'd like to thank everyone who came out to the shows for showing your support for our sound, chewing up the merch, strutting your stuff on the dance floor. We're back home in Winnipeg. We've got some duo and Lost Country shows ahead. We're downtown at Blue Note Park with the duo show this Monday, September 27th, 7 p.m. start time. Lost Country is back in action on October 3rd at the legendary Royal George Hotel in Transcona, Manitoba, Canada for their Country Sunday series. That show runs from 4 to 8 p.m. We're going to be announcing some more stuff for October and November in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. I'll mention those when they are officially announced here on the podcast and, of course, on my regular weekly radio program, Boots and Saddle. Catch me spinning beautiful country music by beautiful country music singers there every Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central on CKUW 95.9 FM. Episodes of Boots and Saddle are archived on many of the same platforms where this podcast is available: Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, etc. Folks, I'll admit, it sure feels good to get the Northern Report back up and rolling. I've got some great guests coming here for Season 2, so let's get after it right now and cue up one of the hardest working musicians in Canada, Gordie Tentrees. Based all the way up in the Yukon Territory capital of Whitehorse, Gordie Tentrees possesses an unparalleled work ethic that sees him on the road as much or more than any other Canadian artist out there today. With 8 records to his credit, this authentic road poet routinely travels North America, Europe, Australia, UK, and Ireland, either solo or with legendary sideman Jaxon Haldane of famed Winnipeg band D Rangers. From Celtic Connections in Glasgow, Scotland, to the National Folk Festival in Australia, his ability to hold an audience and weave melody while juggling the dark with the light is infectious. Pre-pandemic, Gordie and Jaxon performed 750 concerts in 11 countries over the course of 4 years, armed with 10 instruments, brotherly harmonies, and masterful storytelling. A student and disciple of Fred Eaglesmith, Gordie first broke into life on the road, opening for Fred in his traveling show. He has since shared the stage with the likes of Mary Gauthier, James Cotton, Steve Poltz, Fred Penner, Danny Michel, Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, and Kelly Joe Phelps, studying every sound they made on and off the stage, making his own noise. It's real music from a very real guy. No depression has said of Gordie. Tentrees' delivery is so relaxed and unpretentious, it's impossible to not get drawn into his world, sounding like a young John Prine. The Irish Post has noted, Gordie sounds like an album Woody Guthrie or Bob Dylan might have done if they were starting out today. Gordie is an artist that I've taken a lot of cues from while doing my best to maintain my own busy touring schedule over the years, and he's always quick to help out his fellow musician in their own pursuits of life on the road. Gordie's 8th album, Mean Old World, was released on September 14th on Buckaroo Records. I was happy to sit down on the phone with him last month to talk about his new record and the journey that has led him here.
Sean Burns.
Gordie, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing really good, actually.
Excellent.
Thanks for taking the time here to give me some of your time.
Thanks for fitting me in. I'll try not to ruin your excellent track record of podcasts.
Don't shine me on, man.
I'm serious.
No, thanks.
There's a lot on the line here.
This is the heaviest pressure you're going to have around this whole release. This is my paltry little podcast, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
Good.
I'm
enjoying
glad.
It. I'm glad. Are you on the road or are you at home today? Where am I catching you?
I'm at home. I've been home for 72 hours and loving it.
And then you're right back out tomorrow?
No, I have some stuff in the in regional stuff in the Yukon where I live for the next 2 months, kind of ongoing stuff, and then then I start leaving again outside of here.
You've been up there for some time, and that, I guess, as I understand, that's a long way from where you grew up. Am I right to think you're also from Ontario?
I am from Ontario, but I killed some people there, and now I live here.
I went as far away as I could.
I went as far away. They said, you have to get out of here.
You got to leave.
Yeah. I came up here in 98, and
okay.
They keep allowing me to stay. It's great.
Where were you growing up in Ontario?
I was born in Hamilton, and then I lived on a little farm near Bancroft till about my teen years, and then left home and went to school in Toronto, and then made my way up to the Yukon after that.
Music a part of your life in Bancroft when you're growing up?
Oh, totally. It was everywhere, but I didn't play it. I kind of despised the music that I play now. And I had a Slayer patch on my leather coat, and I was into heavy metal and some Leonard Cohen and some Canadian, music and stuff. But it was all around me. And my mother was a radio DJ actually, and piano player.
No shit.
So she would drag us into the studio, and we'd throw records around like frisbees, and for 2 hours while she was on the air, and then she'd go and do these gigs, and drag, tortured us with folk music. One of my first experiences actually was with a fellow by the name of Washboard Hank.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, who was playing the fallopian tuba down at the library. She said, "Kids, we gotta pack up. Washboard Hank's playing the fallopian tuba at the library. We gotta go." And that was it. I went, "Who's this weird man?" And this guy's cool. And then continued to be exposed to people through her in Ontario, like Rick Fiennes and Fred Eaglesmith and Willie P. Bennett and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing and singing then?
I started in my early 20s. My mom gave me a guitar when I went to school and went to university and said, "You talk too much. Take this and write some songs." She was all about. She was an editor and a writer. My both my mother and grandmother are writers and poets, and my grandmother is actually a published author out of Vancouver for a number of years in the 70s. And writing the word down on paper was a really thing to do, especially to keep someone like me quiet from talking. Write it down, and if you like it afterwards, you can tell me about it.
What were you going to school for?
Education.
Oh,
be
okay.
A teacher.
Yeah. Did you end up being a teacher, or did you get sucked into the life?
No, I did it for 8 years, and then I took a leave of absence to see if I could go on tour, because I was taking all these. I had to get substitutes to cover for me to, open up for other artists in other parts of the world it was kind of happening. It was pretty organic. And I remember going and asking the principal, "Hey, I need to take another leave, and I need to go and do this tour of Texas." And he's like, "Well, this is a lot of leaves you're taking." And eventually I took one for a whole year to see if I could make it work. And then never went back and retired.
When you went down to Texas, you were touring with a band at that point?
At that point, I'm trying to think of what I was doing. I think I went with Fred Eaglesmith that down there at that point.
Like opening solo kind of thing?
No, I dragged a trio down there.
Okay, and you're opening for Fred.
Bass and a telly player and yeah, and that was it. That's it. I was bit. I was done. I was done with children. I still like them, but I was done. I was hooked.
Yeah. I mean, I know exactly how you feel, but over the years, you really have become an expert when it comes to booking tours. I guess, is Fred someone that you took your cues from, that sort of helped you figure out that part of the business?
Absolutely. He was, he's the main reason I'm in this amount of trouble,
Yeah.
He's, I met him when I was 15, actually.
Oh,
I met him at the Blue Skies. Yeah. I met him at the Blue Skies Music Festival. I was wearing my Slayer jacket and stealing cigarettes and standing outside the gate and smoking. And he pulled up in his bus and said, "Hey, can you take me? Hey kid, you want to make $5?" And I said, "Absolutely. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Can you walk in front of me to the stage while I drive my bus behind you? It's dark and there's a concert going on right now. And if you could guide me to the stage, we're cool for $5." And so I walk through, and there's like a family camping area. You don't take a big diesel bus through.
Mm-hmm.
A quiet area. And so we woke up everybody, and then he came down this hill, which has that festival has kind of a natural amphitheater. We came down, and I remember my mom in the audience watching the show. I can't remember who was playing, but I was leading this diesel bus down the hill to the side stage during the other show, which wasn't taken too fondly by the festival folks.
Mm-hmm.
And Fred got out and said, I'm here for my show. And a bunch of hairy, smelly guys got out with him, and they got up and played songs about shooting your dog and lighting your tractor on fire. And I thought, this is my wheelhouse. I'm in love. What is this?
Yeah.
This is not folk music. This is loud. And before that, it was Kumbaya and, listening to birds fly in the meadow, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of put me to sleep. And Fred really hit me, really spoke to me. I was like, what is this? And then when I picked up the guitar, I didn't know any songs other than stuff I listened to. I see Fred and Willie and Stephen Fearing and Don Ross and Rick Fiennes, a whole bunch of Canadian folk guys that my mom had tortured me with. And I started learning tunes, and I thought, well, I only know one guy, and I can't remember his name even. My mother's like, what's that Fred Eaglesmith guy? And I went and dug up his songs, which a lot of them are 3 chords,
mm-hmm.
and the truth, or some forms of the truth. And I must have learned about 40 or 50 of his tunes. And for 2 years, I had a cover band when I was teaching that only played Fred tunes, and not many people knew, unless you were in the know, knew that they were Fred Eaglesmith songs. And I would turn them into rock and roll songs if they weren't, or change them up so that I could play 4 sets a night. And I did that for 2 years in all the bars in the Yukon,
mm-hmm.
Going and teaching in the day and burning the candle at both ends. And then thought, okay, I got it. They're listening to the kick drum. They like I'm selling lots of beer here. This is going really well. I figured out how to sell beer and orchestrate, be the train driver in a band.
Yeah.
And went, okay, I think I'm going to get out of the bar and find places where people listen to what I'm saying.
So you were teaching up in the Yukon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's how you ended up there? Was a teaching gig?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And,
okay.
Yeah. Ontario, there was no jobs for anyone in Ontario at the time. Mm-hmm. And, you're losing money to take a teaching job in Ontario. So I took one up here. With my partner at the time, and she came up, and we both came up together. As 2 kids on the run.
Mm-hmm.
We got the teaching job, and then, started playing tunes kind of organically. It's just for I thought I'd just play around the campfire, and then just took it a little too far,
Took it a little too far.
I didn't know any better, and I still don't consider myself a musician. I didn't consider myself a musician then. I just thought, fun thing to do, and then I made a record and I sent it to Fred, and I wrote him a letter and said, hey, remember that kid that led you to the Blue Skies Festival stage when I was, 14 or 15? Here's my record. And one of the tunes, the title track from that record, which was my first record, was called 29 Loads of Freight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens when you listen to too much Fred Eaglesmith. And he said, come play my festival in Elmer, Ontario.
Wow.
And then I booked my first tour in a little Honda Acura, with 3 guys in it and 2 doors.
Yeah.
From Whitehorse to Ontario. We only played 6 shows and nearly killed ourselves.
Well,
I
mean, so just for anyone that's tuned in, like especially that would be tuned in outside of Canada, can you just really quickly sort of paint a picture about where the Yukon sits geographically and like what life is like up there? Because it is, fairly remote, compared to many of the big cities in Canada.
Yeah, we're 27 hours driving north of Vancouver if you use the bathroom 3 times.
Okay.
And we're about 85 to 92 hours to Toronto driving.
And you did 6 shows.
And we did 6 shows.
Yeah. Okay.
So 25-hour drives between each show kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow.
And we couldn't walk after, but we loved it. We were like, okay, that was fun. And then I met him at that festival. And at that festival, there were bands like the D Rangers, Roger Marin, Hayes Carl, JT Van Zandt, all kinds of people that were just starting out like me. And we all exchanged records, Roger Marin and the D Rangers and Adam. I can't remember if Adam Carroll was there, but we exchanged records and said, hey, nice to meet you. And which fostered this whole community of people that I'm still friends with, which is great.
This is like 25 years ago?
No, that would have been 2005.
Okay, and so this is when you start really rolling as a touring performer.
Yeah, 2005, 16 years ago, first tour.
Okay.
And then Fred said, nice to meet you. I got this festival in Green Hall in New Braunfels, Texas. Come and play it. So I went to Texas and I played that, and no one threw anything at me. And he said, hey, how can I help you out? What else can I do for you? You seem to be working hard, and I like the songs. And I said, well, I need to go. I guess I need to go to Europe next. And he said, okay, well, let's stay in touch. And then I got a call. Hey, do you want to go open for Fred in the UK and in Europe? And I did that for 30, 40 shows on a tour. And that was a real eye-opener. I learned a lot, like sit down with the promoter after the show and pull out at that time, your actual physical calendar and book a date a year from now.
Right.
Yourself. Forget the agent. Who needs one of those? I got one, but you know what? You don't need one. You kid, you're just starting out. So I would sit with a promoter and have drinks and book a show for the following year. And then I would come back with my band every year for 10 years. After that, or 12 years now. And that kind of, went into another tour I did of the U.S. I think the last tour I did with Fred was in 2012 called the Tin Can Traveling Tour, which went from St. Louis, Missouri to Santa Monica, California on Route 66.
Oh, nice.
Which was really cool. Super cool, like Robbie Fulks and John D. Graham and Bill Poss and Mary Gauthier were on that tour, and Fred called me up in some airport somewhere and said, I got another tour for you. I need someone that can deal with problems and handle shit. You're the guy. And I said, okay. And I picked another Canadian who was also Roger Marin. So that Roger and I both went and did that tour.
Yeah.
With him. And so I learned lots of stuff and some, stuff that from him that I thought was really cool. The one thing in general was like, the less hands in your pocket, the better. So if you can do everything yourself, then, you can get by and make a couple of dollars, tens of hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And you're in charge of everything. So I never kind of let go of that and everything else that was involved in the music business. Right from the beginning, I kind of avoided the music business. I was like, that looks like something that's not real and a lot of pretend stuff going on. And I'm going to do the thing where you just take it to the people and you do it all yourself.
So you've always done your own booking? You've always kept that in-house?
I've done that. I've gone through agents, the thing I've learned too is if it gets too busy and you can't handle that end of it yourself, then bring someone else in, which has happened a few times. Mm-hmm. With different records you put out, all of a sudden everybody wants you, and the next record they're like, I don't know. We had enough of that guy.
Right.
And in the meantime, you just keep playing, and agents kind of come and go, and labels kind of come and go, and I've done all that little things. And at the end of the day, I still have an agent in Australia and that I keep because of, to deal with visa and paperwork and stuff like that. But I really enjoy doing the rest of it myself. I love it.
In a typical year, like pre-pandemic, how many shows were you doing annually?
I was doing about 150, but before that, there was this good stretch of about 250 for 10 years.
Holy shit. And how many different countries are you finding yourself regularly performing in?
14 at this point. There's 14 of them.
That's like your regular circuit.
That's a regular circuit that I rotate every 2 years. So I just kind of go through every country on a 2-year period. So, I'm coming back to Frankfurt, and he's only here for one night, and you better go. He's not coming back for 2 years. And
so where,
yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, that was kind of, I realized that like for what I do, such a niche kind of show and sound and live show, that I was like, okay, well, I have to find my audience. So I would just go to where they were and all the different pockets they were. And then I try different countries and kind of throw myself against the wall, and some of it would stick and some of it wouldn't. And then I would just move to the next place, until I built up my own circuit that seems to work.
Where are you finding the most success, like cities or venues? Which ones seem to be ringing the bell?
Mainly rural communities.
Yeah.
I find my music relates to the common man, and people can get behind it, whether it's the humor combined with the instruments and the traditional sounds of everything from blues to country to bluegrass that people like, and seems to go well. Like there's some city centers that the hipsters will loosen their pants and come and see. That happens, right? In some pockets, but mainly it's the people and the audience that really wants to see something real and authentic and genuine, and they're beyond anything else. That's where my audience is.
I mean, you're borrowing from all of these sort of, American roots music things of folk music and blues and the whole roots sort of banner. Were you always sort of leaning towards that when you began writing songs?
I think maybe more. I didn't know. Honestly, I had no problem getting in front of an audience and convincing people to believe in me and selling myself, selling music, selling what I was doing, and entertaining people and talking to them, and really comfortable with that. The music thing, I'm still learning how to play music. Literally up 3 years ago, I took voice lessons for 2 years. Stuff like that, or I study with different people where I'm like, okay, I really want to, this winter I took over COVID or the whole COVID experience, I took a ton of slide guitar lessons because cool. I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for a while, but I really want to dig in a little deeper here and focus on this for a year intensely. And so I've been doing that and, just working on stuff, but I had the smarts to kind of go knock on people's door and go, hey, I need to learn some stuff. I see you're doing something that I need to steal from you, and like tell them I'm going to steal this from you and I can pay you for it. And just study with different people that I've become friends with over the years. And it's never ending. That's the beautiful part of it, which is why I'm still doing it. And ironically, I'm just putting up my 8th record. And when I put up my first record, I knew that I did not know what I was doing. And I was not going to get anywhere till I was 50. And if I wanted to be like my heroes, some of the people I've discussed so far, and get the fault, how do those guys get called all the time? Get to go do the stuff instead of, throwing themselves at everybody. How do they get the phone call where they can just stay at home and make those sounds, and they call them, hey, we want you to come out of your house. And that's by, working on your craft. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was like, I want to get to that point. And so I've decided that when I made my first record, I got to make 10 records in 20 years. I'll be 50 years old. And then I'll finally peak, so I'm going to make it. So I'm 3 years away, Sean.
I say that all the time, man. I'll talk to Grant about, his time with Core, but I'm like, man, if I had half that guy's audience by the time I'm 50, I'll be really happy.
Well, absolutely. And I resign myself right from the, very beginning. If I play for 100 people a night till I'm dead, that's it. That's all I want. And, 101 makes me a little nervous. Sometimes that changes, more or less on different things, but that's all I need. And that's kind of my wheelhouse, and what I enjoy about doing what I do.
What about songwriting for you? Like, how has that changed over the years?
Well, it's my favorite part, and it's always been my favorite part.
Yeah. Hey.
It's been the reason that that almost is equal, pretty close to performing. So those two things, get me out of bed in the morning, writing a tune or performing. And I've just definitely taken it to levels where I've sat for 6 months and wrote, a whole record or two records or three records, and then went crazy and done nothing else. I've done it where I've written tunes on the road, writing tunes with other people. I've been doing that over the last couple of records, which I never used to do, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you dig that, the co-writing?
I dig it because it never really works. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. It's no fun most of the time. It can be fun some of the time, and then you can strike gold, and you're like, dang, okay, that's how that can happen. It's really, I've tried to write songs with people that I'm like, wow, I can't believe I asked this person to try to write a song with them. This is gonna, be really awkward if nothing comes out of this. And that's happened. And then other times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm in over my head. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to work. One of the things I did actually was try to write a song with people that don't write songs.
Interesting move.
Yeah, I thought, why don't I? Because everybody has a story. Everybody has, I believe every single person has one really good song in them, like a hit song.
Really?
I do. If they were to write a hit song, if you meet any other songwriters, in my time anyways, I've had experience where I meet different songwriters and they always have one song that I wish I wrote that I'm like, damn, they're not even playing in front of an audience. They're just playing, around the kitchen table, but they got a song that no one else can write because it's their story and it's their song.
Yeah.
And it's their first take on it, right? So I realized that. I went, man, there's a lot of people that like songs, that would like to write songs, that always have a story with either interesting language, coming from who they are as a person, or vernacular of words and rhyme that they've used their whole life, depending on where they are in the world, and then taken their story or a moment that we've shared together, or an experience or an idea, and written a song with a complete stranger nearly that's never written a song before.
Right. Yeah.
And that's been that's probably actually been one of the coolest experiences I've ever done.
Yeah, because I think maybe if for someone who's not a musician, you're not shackled by like the knowledge you've picked up along the way. Like maybe a little bit more naive going into something like writing a song. I don't know if that ever happens to you. You're like find yourself really second guessing things as you're going, or like hearing music differently after being a musician, and you're going to be approaching something or hearing something differently when you're outside of this, as your profession.
I remember Mary Gaucher telling me, write what you know.
Right.
And same with Fred. Write what you know. And various people I've met, write what you know. And I did that for the first couple of records, and people would say, wow, that's really intense. Where did you, what's that song about? Who's that guy? Who's the person? And for the first couple of records, when I can tell people were getting affected by it, I'm like, no, that's actually, these are all about me. These are, for the first two or three records, right? Things that I up to my life to that point that were kind of on that end of things. And then I went, okay, I can't do that too much. I've done all that. I got that all in my system. Now I need to write about other things. And then I couldn't make up shit. I'm like, I can't make up shit. I need to live it. So I got to live it, because then I got to get on stage and sing it. And if I haven't lived it, I can't get behind it and pretend that I'm in, because I'm not in. And then I have to sing the damn song for 20 years.
Yeah. And if someone likes it and wants to hear it every time you come back to town, that can be tough.
For sure.
Yeah. if you don't believe it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they don't believe you. And when I went, I'd go to shows, and I as a kid growing up, and I'm like, I don't believe any of this shit. That's my problem. I don't believe anything. I don't trust people. I don't believe any of this stuff. In fact, not only do I not believe you, I don't know anything about you, because you haven't shared yourself. You've got up and you've, done this presentation.
Right.
And I decided early on, I want to affect people. I want them to cry. I want them to laugh. I want them to be poked and prodded and really take them places and then leave them on a high at the end and get them to want more and get me to come back.
So you find yourself like singing stories like about other people, like, transplanting that sort of experience into your songs, or are you still kind of focused on your story?
Still kind of focused on my story and the story that's happening around me.
Right.
This new record I have, there's a lot of schools that pertain to a lot of tunes that pertain to the Indigenous community, which I live in and I have for a long time. And where I live, every other person around me is a survivor of residential school or knows someone in their family that is. So I can tell you triggers that, set people off when they think of certain times of the year that have to do with residential schools, because we're all aware of them and living in the Yukon and we're exposed to that. So for me, that's what's happening around me. And I can take those experiences that are happening around me with people that I know that I'm having conversations with and put them into song.
And that was sort of the idea behind the new record, Mean Old World, was to sort of to tell that story.
Yeah. Well, the story behind that record is actually a story of my indigenous daughter,
right,
who came into my life about 5 years ago through foster care. I was a foster parent. And we got her out of the system about 2 years ago, but went through a lot of unfortunate experiences to do that. A lot of political agendas were involved and financial agendas and stuff that doesn't pertain to children. And the experience, I was just like, I got to write about this because this is pretty intense. Before, you could turn on the television now and read the news that you read in the last 6 months to a year, where this conversation's everywhere. We were living it 3 years ago,
right.
And even 10 years ago, I was writing songs about this. I remember going to tour in the U.S. in Arizona, probably in around 2010 or 11. I had written a song about a coming of age story of an Indigenous boy that was going to the city to, make a fresh start for himself. And it blew up in New Mexico, in Arizona. And they said, when you come here, can you do this television show and perform? And I said, sure. And I got there and they said, so what's your background? And I said, Irish. And they were like, what? I'm an Irish Canadian. They're like, what? What? Irish Canadian? Yeah. Jesus, hang on a second. I went to the producer and said, he's not Indian. What are we going to do here?
Yeah.
This song, everybody's listening to it. And he's not Indian. What are we going to say? How are we going to do this interview? And I said, well, you can just say that I am a non-Indigenous person, non-Native person that lives in a community where I work with Indigenous people and live with them. And I have this experience and I've shared a song. And they're like, okay, we'll run with that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been privy to an experience that other people outside of where I live, just because of the exposure that I have. And I just came from Ontario, where there's lots of conversations about this. And the rest of Canada kind of woke up. When you go to New Zealand, where I was just for a month before the pandemic, people in New Zealand, if you ask them where they live and about their community, they will tell you that it starts with the Maori, and this street is named after this, and this hill, this mountain we're at, and this ocean is named, and this is the reasons why. They'll tell you in the Maori language and name it for you, explain the definition to you. In Canada, we're doing that in some parts of it, and Australia is like 20 years behind. In Australia, they're not talking about those dirty people. They don't talk about those people that in public like you are. So when I go to Australia and I talk about the Indigenous community as a non-Indigenous person, because that's okay to do that.
Well, you're a folk singer.
Experiences. What's that?
You're a folk singer, and you're telling the stories,
Totally.
and you're telling a story that you're witnessing firsthand. Yeah, it's a unique position that you're in.
It's very unique. So it comes with a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, but it also comes with a lot of, I feel like, responsibility to my community, to make people aware of, hey, don't be scared. It's okay. That things happen, and you're figuring it out. It's coming to your into your knowledge, down your knowledge train right now, and you're having this experience for the first time. It's okay, and I can try and help.
And you find any pushback up in Yukon where you're at, or are people really supportive of what you're trying to do with this?
I think people are really supportive. I've been, I haven't had any really negative feedback, maybe from some, government representatives who would really like to. I've made some mistakes that I've addressed with them, when it comes to our daughter that we experienced that, it's funny, like, you have all these white people that have done these things to the Indigenous community that are also now trying to fix it in their own ways, which I understand. And the pendulum has swung that way, but some of the decisions they're making aren't based upon the best interest of children. They're based upon like trying to correct the past by doing things that shouldn't be done, that are not in the best interest of kids. So our experience, I believe, as difficult as it was with our daughter, was really good at, letting people know that you can still be a non-Indigenous person and raise an Indigenous child through culture and ceremony and connect her with her community and her family and all these things, which is what we've been doing this whole time. So politics and money and history, they're their own thing. And in 50 years, maybe things will change dramatically better than they are right now. And my time, is just to build the capacity to kind of help that community. And that's definitely one of my goals, being someone from the Yukon, is to try to assist and, in my time here, so that they can be empowered and self-governed and believe in all the things and self-sufficient and support it.
Right. Well, that's great, man. And I mean, these are themes that are central to a number of these tunes on the record. Did you guys, when and where did you make the record?
We made it right before January 2019, right before COVID.
Oh, okay. Really?
And we did it up here in Whitehorse and Old Crow Studios. I decided that I wanted to do something I had never done before, which is get a bunch of my favorite musicians and kind of lock them up and sleep with them.
Yeah.
Sleep with them for 7 days, feed them,
yeah,
love them,
yeah,
and then make art and go, hey, there's what we did. Whatever it is afterwards, we're not going to come in and do overdubs. We're going to walk out of this room. I got these songs, and whatever it is what it is. And let's just breathe these songs for 7 nights and 8 days. And I even hired a cook, which was really cool, a real cool on. Cajun Creole cook that had dinner for us and late night cheese platters. And I brought my good buddy Jaxon Haldane from Winnipeg up. He's made records before. And then the guy I've been making records with for a while, Bob Hamilton, and his son Patrick Hamilton, who also makes records. So the 3 musicians I brought together have all been producers and engineers and multi-instrumentalists. And I thought that was a smart thing to do. Mm-hmm. But they could also say, hey, Gordie, this song sucks. Or it's kind of like the other one. Or I don't like it. Or it's not done. Or, we love you, but you got to pick it up.
Those are valuable assets. And if you have good enough relationships with people that you can take that criticism.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. I loved the fact that, I think they loved the fact that because I'm so strong-willed, they loved the fact that they had 3 of them and 1 of me, and they could be, okay, Tentrees. 10 tries, we're doing it this way,
Yeah.
We're not doing it that way. You're out. You're outnumbered, and it's your song. And I'm like, damn, believe in us. And I'm like, God, I gotta trust you guys. So I did that, and it was really, really cool. Better than I thought. Like I thought, shit, if it's bad, I won't put it out. I'll pay for it and go, damn, well, it'll be more of a heartstrings kind of thing for myself. And then I was totally surprised that it came out so well. It was really cool.
Jaxon is a fantastic performer and entertainer in his own right, and a great multi-instrumentalist. You guys have done a lot of touring together as a duo in the last number of years. Did you met him at the Eaglesmith picnic? Is that where you first met?
I met him at the Eaglesmith picnic, and he was playing with the D Rangers, and I just remember them rolling out of this van that was just filled with pot smoke, and they had a big bag of pot they were using as a pillow, and they had driven from Winnipeg straight, deadheaded it, and they were a mess, and they all had the same greasy clothes, and they got on stage and killed it, and I went, this is amazing. What is this? Mm-hmm. This is not bluegrass music. What is this? And this isn't boring. This doesn't put me to sleep. This is
not
so
safe
inspiring.
At all.
No, and I fell in love with it. I was like, please, let there be more of this in the world,
So how did you end up bringing Jaxon out with you? How did all that happen?
Well, 2014, I was doing a tour of Texas with my friends Adam Carroll and Mark Youngers, and Adam had to back out at the last minute for some reason, and I can't remember what it was. And Jaxon at the time was living in Oklahoma. He's got family in Oklahoma, and I went to I stayed with him over the years. The last 15 years since I'd met him at the Fred Eaglesmith picnic, I would stay with him in Oklahoma. We'd catch up and have these great times. I'm like, and he played on a couple records of mine over the years with his banjo. And I said, man, I'm in a situation. I got 2 weeks of shows in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, Tennessee. Do you want to come? I need another songwriter. I don't know if you still got what it takes, man, but I think you probably do.
Mm-hmm.
And he just finished going to back to school, and he had a young family at the time. And he's like, you know what? I just finished in school. I think I can do this. And then I'd never played with him before. I'd done jumped up with my dobro and played slide guitar with the D Rangers a few times over the years. And he'd done the same thing with when I had a band I was touring with. I jumped on stage with me. So I knew he was, he's a player. And when I sat down with him, and I realized after one show, we were playing in Beaumont, at Corville's in Beaumont. We played one show together, him and Mark Youngers and myself. And I remember thinking, oh my God, every sound that we make together is magic. And at that point, I'd never met someone else on stage that had the same kind of power, where I didn't feel like I had to drag the whole band and be the guy.
Yeah.
Because he was a band leader and all the things that comes with being a leader of a 5-piece band like the D Rangers. So he had this, and he could sing like nobody's business and play instruments, and he was all in and didn't give a fuck. It was all about, we didn't have to rehearse the song. We could play it any way we wanted to. We didn't have to talk about it. And afterwards, I remember the third or fourth show trying to bite my lip and not say, hey, do you want to do this again and again and again and again? And I said those things after that tour was over, and he said, yeah. And I said, do you want to go around the world once? Do you want to do a lap of the world? I remember asking him, and he's like, yeah, I think I could do that for the next year. And so we did a lap of the world for a year. And then I said, do you want to do another one and another one? Do you want to make a record? So we made a live record together that our mutual friend, Scott Franchek, who engineered it with him. And that was it, man. 926 shows later.
Wow. In like 3 years?
6 years. 6 years and counting now, 2014 to now. So, it's almost 7 years, I guess. But it was kind of funny because I thought, how many shows have we done? And I'm like, wow, 873. And then I remember telling the audience, it's the 874th time I've had to talk to this, put up with this guy on the stage with me, and I kept count.
Yeah.
Just for fun. And now now we're still doing it. We're going to do it again in the new year. We're doing shows in the new year, which is great.
Yeah, that's really exciting. You want to maybe tell us about where you're going to be regionally in the coming months? I saw that you're going to be here in Winnipeg, I think in January.
We're going to be in January at the West End Cultural Center with the D Rangers doing a double bill CD release tour.
Sweet.
And it's Jaxon's birthday. He's going to
nice.
He's going to be 30. It's amazing.
Again.
It's amazing. I don't know how he does it, but he's going to be 30 January 12th.
Okay.
Get a ticket. I think they're going to be out in the next week or so. And I'm going to be going across Western Canada for a couple of weeks with him and my friend Bob Hamilton. So it'll be a kind of a really nutty string trio with lots of noise for 3 guys. We're going to do that for the first time, which will be really fun.
That's January across Western Canada. What's the plan after that? Like, are you guys going back overseas? Because, I'm wondering how many of your regular venues have had to close down for good because of the pandemic, or if you think that you're going to be able to sort of jump back into that circuit.
I don't know. I'm kind of like, I started in the last couple of years too, doing a lot of solo tours, and I kind of do this solo one-man band thing where I play percussion with my feet and different instruments and stuff like that. And that kind of allows me to be really flexible to play for, 30, 40, 50, 60 people or a bigger room and all kinds of different situations where I kind of create my own venues. I just did some shows in Ontario where I just literally said, I'm coming to Ontario. Who wants to see me? And we did 8 concerts that were all very unique, to deal with each community situation. And I just let the fans and the promoters and the people that have been on my team for a long time decide how we were going to do that together. So I believe that it's going to come back stronger than ever. And and there's going to be plenty of it. And in the meantime, I just need to practice up, and get ready for it.
You guys going to go back to the United States? You haven't been down there in a while, have you?
I stopped going. As soon as Trump got in, I was done.
Okay.
I'd been
yeah.
I'd been touring down there for so long, and and I've been touring from Whitehorse, driving to Whitehorse and doing 75 shows to Austin and back.
Yeah.
In a row and stupid stuff like that, and flying to Texas for 2 months, and I stopped going. So it's been a long time, but I was actually planning to go in 2020 for the first time in a number of years, thinking, okay, Trump's back out, it's time for me to go back in, which sounds kind of silly. And I don't, that's not really the reason, but it was my ongoing joke. But it's way overdue. I'll be going back down there for sure.
It's a grind down there, man. There's so many people and so much talent. But I really, in my experience, have really enjoyed playing for the American audiences. Like, do you find them different versus your other audiences?
No, they're all the same. They're people. They got heartbeats. They got feelings.
Yeah.
And they don't mind me sharing myself with them. I go to Alaska a lot, so I'm lucky that I have Alaska's kind of like little Texas in a way, or little Montana, and parts of California. It's a very diverse state, and it's right next door. And so I've been getting a dose of the U.S. all the time. And I love going to Alaska and love going to the lower 48, especially the Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee area where I've been going for a long time.
So you're typically like mapping out a year in advance, like where you want to go and where you have to go back to. Is that how you approach your own booking?
Usually 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Usually 2-year chunks. So I'll pull out the calendar and go, and I have to go, when am I going to go back to Scandinavia or New Zealand or Spain or Italy or mainland Europe or the UK or Australia? And I have to map it out. And I learned early on, like if I do it 2 years in advance, if it gets canceled, no big deal. If things change, like they do 90 times over, I go, okay, well, that's what happens. But it's a really kind of easygoing way to put shows together. And at this point now, I'll just put 20 concerts together, 20 nights in a row. It's kind of my golden thing, is like 3 weeks max to get in and out, and 20 nights in a row. So I'll fly in, rehearse with Jaxon or whoever, and play 20 nights in a row, and after the last show, race to the airport, and I'm done. I'm in and out.
No days off.
No days off. 20 nights in a row. Sometimes 2 shows in a day.
Yeah.
And then go home and not worry about it for 3 weeks or a month or 6 weeks, and then go back out and do it again. And that's really, for me, has worked really well, where I'm not in there so long. The 3-week period seems to be really nice for my family, where they're like, okay, we're so glad he's gone, and now we want him back,
I was going to ask you about that, man, because, if you're booking that far ahead and you've got so many things, you're wearing so many hats already, like, how do you be home when you're home? Is that something that you've had to learn how to do over the years, sort of create some space and boundaries between, Gordie Tentrees on stage and Gordie Tentrees, the family man?
Totally. Like, no, when I get up in the morning, Sean, and I go into the kitchen, nobody claps.
Yeah.
And they're like, I want $5, Dad. I want to ride somewhere, and I don't like this cereal anymore. Right. And that's it. So I've always been, to me, a family man first in my mind, even though that's, been skewed. I've gone through in my own trials and tribulations with being married several times. I've practiced, worked hard at it to get to the point where I'm now. And I feel like I finally found the balance, probably since actually I started touring with Jaxon 6 years ago, where I went, okay, I needed to throw myself against the public 300 times a year, or try to. And because I had no audience.
Right.
And I wasn't making any money. And I would come home and I go right to work. And then right off the plane, I go to work and I pay my band and I wouldn't make a cent. And I did that for a long time. And to the point now where now I can pick and choose what I want to do and how much I'm going to get paid, and say yes. I say no, and I say yes now, which is something I could never do before.
Right.
It was always like, please, I'll play for myself. I don't care. Free beer, whatever.
Yeah.
Chicken wings, let's do it. Nonstop. But as you know, that goes through everyone needs to go through that. And then in the last, at least for sure, since I started doing with Jaxon, or a little bit before that, probably about 2013, I think, where in 2012 I did a tour of 140 shows in 144 days in 8 countries.
Oh, holy shit.
And I did it with a 4-piece band. So 4 days off and 144 days. And after that, I couldn't talk for 3 months. I didn't come out of my house. I thought, you know what? I'm going to put out a record and I'm going to tour in every country that I'm in. And I'm going to do the whole release in 140 shows, right in a row. And I, did all the U.S. and then up to Vancouver, go to Europe, did Europe and Scandinavia, went to, it was crazy. But it broke everybody in the band. Everyone's still broken from it. They're still recovering.
Well, that's a tough grind, man.
It was a tough grind, and I learned a lot. I went, why did I do that? It was kind of an experiment to see if I could do it all and then it'd be done.
Right.
And have the rest of the year off. And then I was like, that's stupid. Okay, now I know. Check that off. So for me, I've done all the stupid things one time and went, okay, you don't do that anymore. What works best so that I can have my children know my first name, as well as my last, and I can it's spit and have a wife, keep one.
But that's got to be hard, man, because like when you are home, you're still maintaining whatever it is, a social media presence. You're still getting offers. You're still having to field these emails and stuff. So that's got to be a really tough balance to find. And it's speaking from my own personal experience, it's something that I continually fuck up and try to get better at doing.
It's a trick. It's for sure. It's a trick. And my wife, who I've been with now for 8 years, she is a master of that, how to work efficiently. And I've actually learned a lot of really great things about how you can be really efficient, multitask, be really efficient, work less and have more fun.
Right. Can you tell me that secret?
Totally.
Okay.
It's basically, I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend 10 hours maximum on the phone on my computer this week, and it's going to be done, for 90 minutes a day, and then it's done. I'm going to post something. People are like, oh my God, you're always on social media. I post something and then my phone I'm not looking at it for 24 hours. I'm not going back and going surfing the internet. I'm like, yes, that's part of what I do is, having a presence on social media. Boom, it's done. Okay, I need to apply for this. I need to do for that. I need to go to the post office and do that. And I'll do those things. But time management has really been the key and then getting away from that. The other thing that has been great for me is exercising and being a healthy musician is hard to do. So for me, and regulating myself so that I can sleep well and eat well and I'm physically active, so that all these things and planning well in advance and being organized has really made it low. The impact has been really low. Like I remember, spending 4 to 5 hours a night on my laptop trying to book tours.
Yeah.
Being a publicist, being a promoter. I remember putting out 2 records where I was not only the radio publicist, like actually radio tracking my own record,
Yeah.
And then the publicist that I got after that said, I see, who's your agent, who's your radio publicist? And I made up some fake alias and tracked my own record. And they were like, who is this guy that's working for you already? Why do you want to work with me? I said, well, it's actually me. It's going to be too much. It's going to be too much work. That's how I got my first publicist in Canada.
No shit.
Ken Beattie. He's like, I see your records charting. Whoever's working for you, man, you don't need any help. And I was like, it's actually me. I'm trying to get away from.
Yeah.
Doing that.
So I can actually.
So the only people I have on my team are 9 publicists. So 9 different publicists are who take money out of my pocket. But I believe that for what I do, that's the people that I need to let people know I'm coming through and get bums in the seats and stuff like that. So I pay those guys and the odd agent or 2, but that's about it.
Any advice you can give for someone that is considering starting out, trying to make a go out of being a touring musician?
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Go to school, man.
If you do, get a job. Like I've always had a job. Like I have worked this entire time. I've played music. I've worked with jobs, mainly with children and kids and families and stuff like that. The vulnerable kind of at-risk population and as either a teacher, a youth worker, or all kinds of projects that I've done over the years. And so my thing was like, so it was something that I did was go play music, but also I would get off the plane, get out of the rental car and go back to work.
Right.
And that meant being able to do what I do without falling on my face. Like I've got friends that won't leave their house because they're worried that either not going to make any money or someone's going to hate, not like them. And that's what I would suggest. If you got a day job, get a day job, but also get used to saying, I think the most important thing for me is getting used to the word no.
Yeah.
No, I don't like you. No, I don't want you here. No, I'm not interested. I don't want to hear your sound. I don't want to have you playing my venue. I have no interest. And then going, okay, right on. Well, good luck with all the other shows. I'm going to move down the road here, 50 kilometers, in another venue beside your town, and build it up. And then eventually you're back where you started when you sent that. I remember there's many promoters that remember getting inquiries for me to play their venues and going, there's no way. This guy is nowhere near where I need to, have my performance be for my audience. And then me accepting that and going and working on my craft and growing and building the audience. So now that I'm playing those places, it's really, that's really, I think, the most important thing I would recommend is keeping, getting used to that word and accepting it and learning from it. Why are they telling me that I can't play there? Okay, I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's a hard thing for people to accept. Like, they take it personally, and it's easy to say don't take it personally, but like, you really can't. Like,
nope.
I've heard
nobody could do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everybody can do it.
Someone told me one time, like, he's like, my day doesn't start until I've heard no 4 times.
Yeah.
And that's just it. And that's a really great approach. And man, a ton of admiration for your work ethic and your ability to maintain this schedule like year in and year out. And really nice job on Mean Old World. And I hope that you have a bunch of great shows over the next couple of years behind this record.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me. I think it's really great. Although we don't know each other too well, it's really great to see what you're doing. And honestly, there's not enough honky-tonkin happening in this country, and I hope you keep honky-tonkin, my friend.
I'm fully invested. I'm committed to the same kind of thing as you are, man. Going for it, and I love that, and I love that you said that about Jaxon. Like, that's a kind of a Winnipeg thing I find with some of the better musicians here, is that ability to just let it go and be in the moment and go for it, on stage confidently.
Absolutely.
Great to talk to you today, Gordie. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks, man. Good luck, buddy. I appreciate it.
You too, and I'll see you in January when you're here, man.
Take care, my friend.
I'll talk to you soon. You too, bud.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed my chat with Gordie Tentrees. Big thanks to Gordie for taking the time to talk with me, and all the best to him with Mean Old World and his dates behind the record. Listen to Gordie's new record wherever you're streaming music for a nominal monthly fee, or check him out at tentrees.ca. Or even better, head to gordietentrees.bandcamp.com to support directly. Follow along with the Northern Report Spotify playlist to hear music from the folks that I've covered in my Honky-Tonk Times column, as well as right here on the podcast. Subscribe, like, follow, and share the Northern Report. I appreciate everyone for following along so far. Our logo was created by Boots Graham of Boots and the Hoots. Music on the show today courtesy of Sean Burns and Lost Country, The Divorcees, and Skinny Dick. From local legends to regional stars to the cream of the Canadian crop, you're going to find it all here on the Northern Report. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll chat later. Hey, what do you got for me, dude?
It's okay, because while you're cheating on me, I'm praying for you.